Mom, Dad, I humbly suggest you save some money and shop Amazon for back to school. It's for my growth, meaning my body's growing at an alarming rate. And clothes you buy me this year will be very small very soon. Plus, the clothes I love today will be out of style tomorrow. But at least your wallet doesn't have to be my fashion victim if you shop low prices for school at Amazon. Hopefully this is helpful. Amazon. Spend less, smile more.
Yup, that's who you think it is. The Grimace Mug. The Hello Kitty keychain. Barbie herself. For a limited time, your favorite McDonald's collectibles filled with memories and magic are now on collectible cups. Get one of 6 when you order a collector's meal at McDonald's with your choice of a Big Mac or 10-piece McNuggets. Come get your cup while you still can. At participating McDonald's for a limited time while supplies last.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of EPL Market Metrics. Things are getting crazy, aren't they, people? And probably for the current time, we're almost limiting who we have to talk about because Chelsea have got players on, players off. Arsenal are rumoured with people. Liverpool are trying but holding. There is all sorts of things going on in this marketplace right now, isn't there? So let's get into it. And before we get into it, I should do my normal hellos to Ben Bocsak. Ben, it's getting exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we predicted, that the last sort of few weeks of this window is going to be where everything happens, where everything is going to go down to the wire and we're going to get some good big transfers. And I think it's starting to happen. We are seeing it. Mainly, I think, to many people's surprise, Chelsea are still the most active club. And I wasn't going to expect sort of departures, but they're the most active when it comes to new arrivals as well. So we're going to talk about one of them today as well. And it's an interesting part of the transfer window, I think.
Yeah, and to be honest, people, it doesn't seem like it's going to be getting quiet anytime soon. I think a great crescendo maybe towards the end. Even the yellow ties might be out and ready, so we'll have to see. So we'll go to our first one, Ben, and a name that Liverpool fans are sort of seeing and waiting, wishing for, as it were, in the form of Martin Zubimendi. So the Spanish international obviously came on in the second half of the Euro final, didn't he? Brilliant for Spain in their victory over England. Real Sociedad very much has ties to the club, but it's Liverpool that are trying to convince him. And it's an interesting one, Ben, because, I mean, the various reports suggest he's turned down Arsenal 3 separate times. Barcelona have tried. Bayern Munich have tried it, if you read reports. But Liverpool possibly, potentially, maybe have a chance of getting this player. In fact, probably everyone's expecting news anytime soon. We do what we always do, Ben. So we talk stats and the metrics, first of all, most importantly. It seemed a difficult task on the surface, but Liverpool seem to have a chance now. Do the stats and metrics indicate to you why Liverpool are going so hard for this?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Based on the numbers, I think Liverpool need a better controller in the middle of the park, and not just when it comes to sort of passing the ball, but also defensively. Wataru Endo is a good player, but I don't think speed-wise he is the player that he was maybe a couple of years ago and I think we saw that last season. And in a lot of the metrics, Zubimendi, especially I was looking at Sci Sports or Ski Sports, I don't know how you pronounce it, but I was looking at their metrics and they have a sort of way to determine whether a player is slow, relatively slow, average, relatively fast, or fast. And Zubimendi sort of ranked in the relatively fast section, so he's got a bit of speed about him. Not super fast. I wouldn't expect a Pedro Neto type of player who we're going to talk about later, but he is relatively quick. I mean, he's a lot younger than Endo as well. At 25, he's hitting his prime, and his defensive numbers are solid as well. So he made 169 recoveries in La Liga last season. That would have ranked him behind only McAllister and Szoboszlai for Liverpool if he made those numbers in the Premier League. McAllister got 195 and Szoboszlai got 171. He also ranked in the top 15 midfielders in La Liga for tackles and interceptions at 86. I mean, it always comes with a caveat in terms of, what sort of style Sociedad will play. All players who are playing for relegation sides are going to get a lot more or rank a lot higher in these metrics. But I think the top 15 among midfielders is still a really solid sort of return for a player who, Sociedad have aspirations to play in Europe, and they were a Champions League club last season. So to do that in a Champions League club is really strong numbers, and it would suggest that not only we've seen his ability on the ball, I think particularly against England in the Euro final, but not only able to bring that ability on the ball, he'd be able to bring a lot of cover defensively, and I think in this Arne Slot system, Liverpool need that. So overall, I think it makes sense, this deal, and I understand why Liverpool are trying to get it done.
Yeah, especially like you say, some of the stats, his aerial stats as well are very impressive in terms of across the top 5 league. I mean, it's an interesting one on price because it's a buyout clause, it seems, that Liverpool may have to activate. 60 million euros, which translates around 51 million, doesn't it? If you get them at Tesco, etc. So Liverpool will probably try and negotiate a deal for that, but there may be an option where there is no option, I suppose, and they may just have to trigger it if the player does, in fact, indicate that he does want to do the deal. I suppose on that, Ben, it might not be the terms Liverpool want. If it is 51 million, they do have to, as a buyout, give that to Zubimendi to terminate the contract overall. But in terms of a price, 51 million or about 60 million euros, is that good value for this player?
I think you'd have to say it's fair. If we're looking at sort of other holding midfielders or number 6s in the market, Liverpool were sort of touted over 100 million for Moises Caicedo last season, and Caicedo won a European Championship. He hadn't played in the Champions League even, so Zubimendi has all of that experience with him. Obviously, he's a few years older than Caicedo, but given the experience, given his sort of pedigree, you have to say that's a fair price, and I think a lot comes from the fact that Real Sociedad are in the financial situation that they are. Even though they made the Champions League last season, they are not made of money, and I think for that reason they obviously inserted this release clause, which is more than favourable for Liverpool.
Yeah, it will be interesting, especially like you say, Caicedo and Rice in the market. It may just be a good price point if Liverpool can do it. I think all Liverpool fans wait with bated breath on that one. But one, as you mentioned there, that's definitely been done, Ben. He kind of came from nowhere all of a sudden. Pedro Neto. So he has moved from Wolves to Chelsea. Again, according to reports I'm looking out here, it seems to be somewhere around £55 million. There are a few add-ons in there, not specified whether they're achievable. I mean, it's a weird one, Ben, because you still look at all the wingers Chelsea have got, like even the ones that don't get in the side quite often, like Sterling and Madueke, but you think Neto will be being bought to be a starter. Always held as a talent, liked by a lot of clubs, no doubts about it, but there's usually one obvious thing that's cited with Pedro Neto, without doubt by every single fan and every single thing. Metrics-wise, how good are his metrics before we talk about the obvious situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think his strongest metrics, obviously, this is dribbling. He was in the top 10 players in the league for dribbles per 90, top 10 wingers, for dribbles per 90, over 7 dribbles per 90, but there were two other players who ranked higher than him from Chelsea in Madueke and Sterling. They were actually a little bit higher in those average dribbles per 90. So that, for me, is a question mark. Do Chelsea really need him? Because they've already got players who can do what he does. So I looked at, maybe they looked at him for the output. 2 goals last season. Comes with the caveat that, Wolves aren't necessarily a great goal-scoring side, although under Gary O'Neill, I think they did get a few scalps and they were a lot stronger. Averaged 0.48 assists per 90. Now, that's the best among wingers in the Premier League last season, according to White.
Yeah.
However, it comes again with a caveat that his expected assists was only 0.24, so half of 0.48. And that ranked him, I think, around top 20, just in the top 20 wingers. So, I think maybe his sort of overall data, or the data that is more readily available, would suggest that he's a good signing because no one had averaged more dribbles in the Premier League than him. However, if actually looking at his expected assists, I think you have a few question marks. I think maybe his numbers are a bit misleading because he's not really necessarily producing he was overproducing a lot, and that always leaves question marks, I think.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because people will look on the surface and go, pacey winger, assist machine. The caveat's always going to be, and we're going to have to talk about this, injuries. It's usually more of a surprise for Wolves fans if you look when he's been fit, to be honest. There's been a lot of injuries recently. I mean, for the fee on what they're getting, is that the big surprise for you, Ben, the injury record against the fact they committed to that?
This episode is brought to you by our good friends at NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. I'm sure by now you've all gotten back into your Sunday routines, but they could be even better. With NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV, you get the most live NFL games all in one place, every game, every Sunday. And you can even watch up to 4 different games at once with multi-view, one of my favorite inventions of this decade. It's exactly what you need to catch all the action. Make your Sundays more magical. And also, YouTube TV is great. I got it this year. It's awesome. Sign up now at youtube.com/BS. Device and content restrictions apply. Local and national games on YouTube TV. NFL Sunday Ticket for out-of-market games. Excludes digital-only games.
Yup, that's who you think it is. The Grimace Mug. The Hello Kitty keychain. Barbie herself. For a limited time, your favorite McDonald's collectibles filled with memories and magic are now on collectible cups. Get 1 of 6 when you order a collector's meal at McDonald's with your choice of a Big Mac or 10-piece McNuggets. Come get your cup while you still can. At participating McDonald's for a limited time while supplies last. Yup, that's who you think it is. The Grimace Mug. The Hello Kitty keychain. Barbie herself. For a limited time, your favorite McDonald's collectibles filled with memories and magic are now on collectible cups. Get 1 of 6 when you order a collector's meal at McDonald's with your choice of a Big Mac or 10-piece McNuggets. Come get your cup while you still can. At participating McDonald's for a limited time while supplies last. Yup, that's who you think it is. The Grimace Mug. The Hello Kitty keychain. Barbie herself. For a limited time, your favorite McDonald's collectibles filled with memories and magic are now on collectible cups. Get 1 of 6 when you order a collector's meal at McDonald's with your choice of a Big Mac or 10-piece McNuggets. Come get your cup while you still can. At participating McDonald's for a limited time while supplies last.
I think with Chelsea, nothing is a surprise, to be honest, in terms of their signings. But yeah, I do think the reason why no other big club has gone in for him is you look at his massive overproduction when it comes to output, especially in terms of assists. I mean, there's not really an overproduction when it comes to goals, but definitely assists, huge overproduction. Then you have that terrible injury record, and then combine the two, I'm not really sure that Pedro Neto is going to be the saviour of Chelsea, or if he's going to be a massive upgrade on any of the wingers that they have already at the club, like Madueke, like Sterling. Obviously, Mudryk is still there. I mean, there's a lot of wingers, I could list them all, but I don't see him as a massive upgrade. And the fact that they've paid over 50 million for him and he's not a massive upgrade, I think it just raises a lot of questions. But Chelsea's transfer activity in general just raises a lot of questions. So you can't really, you can't really sort of figure out what's going on in the recruitment team's mind. It feels like, I don't know, an 11-year-old started playing Football Manager and just decided to sign everyone. I don't really get it. I don't see what's going on there. I do think Neto is a good player, but is he somebody Chelsea needed, or is he worth the money they paid for him? I don't know. I have question marks.
Yeah, it is a strange one all round. I think it is fair to say. If he stays fit, though, just to be clear, it could be a very, very interesting one. So we'll see how he gets on, Chelsea fans. And this player, Ben, I think almost people expected something to be done with this player at the back end of last season. The Ivan Toney, I mean, he was in the England squad. He played some games, Euro 24. As you know, there's been talk of Tottenham, Arsenal for a long time, even Manchester United mentioned. And yet he still sits at Brentford with, a year left to go on his deal. All indications are we expected it because he's almost told Brentford, I'm not signing a new deal. It's that final big move at his age. And now, I mean, there's even talks that Saudi clubs could be interested in him. That's, that's where it's gone with Ivan Toney. He's such a strange one. I suppose metrics-wise, it'll be interesting to see. Is it the injuries and that time out that have robbed him, of what he was, shall we say? Or is there still a player there you think Premier clubs could be interested in?
I think there is definitely a player there. He's strong in the air, wins more than 3 aerial duels per 90, but he also sort of drops back, involves himself in the build-up play. He's not necessarily just a route one striker that we saw Gareth Southgate use him as at the Euros at Brentford. You often see him linking up, and his passing numbers and statistics are not super low for a striker, especially for a striker who was playing in a team that was close to relegation, or were sort of, I think, never really at a genuine threat of relegation, but they were in, and there were fears that they could go down. But if we're just basing it on his last season at the club, which we'll see kind of like half a season, it's hard to make any good sort of conclusions that he's worth the £47 million that Brentford quoted for him, if that's worth the money. I mean, only 4 goals, 0.83 goal conversion, so he definitely had more opportunities and probably could have done better. I mean, if we're talking about goal conversion, I think we mentioned it on the show before, but you want a forward to at least be on 15%, so not even halfway there. I mean, he's about just over 50% of what you will want a decent striker to have. Now again, that could be dependent on his shooting opportunities, because he was playing in a side like Brentford who aren't necessarily going to create clear-cut chances and were struggling last season in that area. Obviously, that's why they were close to relegation. So I think, we'd have to do a sort of deeper study of why his goal conversion was so low and why his total goal count was so low. But I think just the fact that you have to do a more of a deep dive and a deeper study into his numbers suggests that, you know, he's not the finished article or not the sort of game-changing player that you would be willing to sacrifice £47 million for in this market.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why it sort of makes sense that a Tottenham or an Arsenal hasn't gone for him, because I think also you've got to add the age factor into it. He's 28 years old. All of those things will deter clubs, and it's not convincing enough for me to suggest that, you know, any team from the top six should be making a move for him. And then that limits his options in the Premier League really about who else could go for him, who else needs a striker. Newcastle have Ishak and Callum Wilson, who are more just, I would say, just as good. I mean, Ishak has the potential to be even better than Toney. So there's not a lot of options for him to go anywhere else. So maybe it's Brentford or the Saudi League, as you mentioned it.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, what does your gut tell you about? Because I suppose one of them is which you could see as well. Toney may think, well, I'll see out the season then if I'm not going to get the option of go on a free, because if I'm on a free, then I'll become naturally more attractive to a lot of clubs. Or if I'm not going to get that, then I would be, you know, I might look at the Saudi options that are rumoured to be on the table. What do you think is going to happen with Ivan Toney? What does your gut tell you?
I think he's going to stay. I know, I mean, obviously, I think Brentford brought in a sort of prepared replacement.
Yeah.
You got injured, didn't he? So well, that is another suggestion for me, that or indication that he's going to stay. I think they can't sort of risk signing another replacement for Toney with Igor being injured and everything else. So I think he will stay, and I think it's probably the best move for him right now, because if he has another good season in the Premier League, scores a lot of goals, then you never know. At 29, someone could take a punt on him.
Yeah.
Even from the Saudi League, I think he's sort of going to be earning more money if he, after a good season in the Premier League, than he would if he were to go now. And after a sort of, wouldn't say, I mean, yeah, you would have to say disappointing season last season.
Yeah, it's maybe the impact as an impact sub, especially in the Euros, might work in his favour. But I think, same with me, it would not surprise me if he sees that year out on a free. Don't be surprised as well if you see Ivan Toney bang a few goals next season, because that makes him attractive to suitors on a free, homegrown. Yeah, I think we will see where that's going with Ivan Toney. And that leads us on, Ben, to the last player. I mean, this was an interesting one because Jean-Clair Todibo, let's just be clear, turned West Ham down a good month and a half ago or so, and then was nailed on for United, but because of Jim Ratcliffe and the ownership issues with Nice, couldn't do that. Then expressed a clear interest in going to Juventus. Juventus didn't get this done. Tim Steidten jumps on that magic plane, does whatever he does, talks to the player, and naturally the deal is done. Around, suggestions are £40 million for the total deal. Do the metrics say this is a good deal? Because it's interesting there's so many clubs like Juventus, United interested. Do the metrics back that up?
I think he's a good player, yeah. Particularly, I think, right now, the trend in modern football is obviously to have very ball-playing centre-backs. I mean, he's very vulnerable. Last season, he averaged over 27 forward passes per 90 in League One, which ranked him among, I think, the top 3 centre-backs in the league. He's decent defensively as well. I mean, you'd expect him to be for a defender, but just on the 72% of his defensive duels last season, and it was a high volume of defensive duels as well. It was just over 6 defensive duels per 90, which is quite high for a centre-back. I mean, Van Dijk is normally around 3 or 4, sometimes even lower in a season. Sometimes you go down to 2.9 even. So in comparison to that, you know, he almost had double of Van Dijk's average and still came out with sort of the same success rate as Van Dijk. I mean, obviously, completely different leagues, completely different systems, but I think it's just good to have that sort of comparison in terms of the data itself and what it means. So he's shown that he's a competent defender. My only question mark, I guess, would be aerially. I don't think he's quite that tall, and the numbers also reflect that as well. So just over 2 aerial duels per 90, and a 54% success rate is quite low. I think you want a defender or a centre-back at least to be on 60, preferably 65%, and then 70 is really good. Those are amazing numbers, and 75 to 80 is like, yeah, you're just insane in the air, and or it might be just a huge anomaly. You had a fluke of a season or something like that. But 54% is low. It's not super low, but it is quite low for a centre back. And I think, if he was producing those numbers in Ligue 1, you sort of question how that would translate in the Premier League, where you have more physical strikers. Like, for example, someone like Ivan Toney, who we just spoke.
Toney, yeah.
How he would sort of translate that in English football, I think is a question mark for me.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because it does seem much sought after. But like you say, you look at the metrics, and you also think that West Ham losing Zuma. I don't know Zuma's stats, but I imagine by his nature, a big, huge aerial presence, you'd think as well. I mean, they've obviously chosen to do it, and it seems West Ham have got a lot of ball players in their team now, haven't they? They've had a big shake-up there, and, they bought Todibo in, their main centre-back, 40 million quid. From what you're seeing, from what you're hearing, and I suppose West Ham's overall picture, what do you reckon to this is exciting? Are you leaning towards success, or are the question marks too big for you?
Because the only question mark is the aerial duels, and I think sometimes you can work that out between yourselves, or especially when it comes to set pieces, you can stick the other centre back, whoever that will be for West Ham, who might be better in the aerial duels, on the big man or on the danger man, and you also have midfield who will be decent at that as well. So I think overall West Ham can manage that weakness and still come out on top, because you have a ball playing defender who's going to be a better fit to the system that Lopetegui wants to play. So I think overall, you're still getting a good player who is in the prime or entering the prime. His years, and he's got a good sort of status in world football, with having been at Barcelona and being courted by Manchester United. So you've also got the potential there, if he has a good season, to sell him on for a bigger profit as well. So I think overall, I still see that this can be a successful signing. It doesn't not have to be a successful signing. Obviously, there is that question mark when it comes to the aerial duels, but I don't think it's enough of a question mark to sort of make me have any real concerns for West Ham or question the sort of smartness of this transfer, because I still think this is a smart transfer, and I still think this is a transfer that's going to improve West Ham and make them better. So overall, I've got no issues of this transfer, and I think it's going to be a success.
Will be interesting, ladies and gents. So there we go. Jean-Clair Todibo, we think it'll be successful. Ivan Toney, the suspicion is he will wait it out and leave on a free at the end of this coming season. Pedro Neto, yes, he's got pace, the assister there, but there's a lot of question marks, especially against injuries. And do Chelsea really need him? and Martin Zubimendi. Well, Liverpool fans, you're all waiting, aren't you? But if it can be done, it looks a good deal for you there. So there we are, ladies and gents. The transfer window is moving thick and fast, as we have tried to as well. So all that leaves me to say is, Ben, for the insight, the metrics, mate, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
And ladies and gents, that was another EPL Market Metrics for EPL Index.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Yup, that's who you think it is. The Grimace Mug. The Hello Kitty keychain. Barbie herself. For a limited time, your favorite McDonald's collectibles filled with memories and magic are now on collectible cups. Get one of 6 when you order a collector's meal at McDonald's with your choice of a Big Mac or 10-piece McNuggets. Come get your cup while you still can. At participating McDonald's for a limited time while supplies last.